Friction. Friction, a resistive force. There are many different types of forces that occur in nature, but perhaps none is more familiar to us than the force of friction, which is written F sub Fr, Fr for friction. Friction is a resistive force that opposes the motion of an object. What does sandpaper have to do with friction? We'll be talking about two different types of friction. One is static friction. That opposes an applied force which would start an object sliding on a surface. Kinetic friction opposes an applied force that would keep an object sliding on a surface. The static friction between two surfaces is always larger than the kinetic friction. That's why it's harder to start something sliding than to keep it sliding. Where does friction come from? On a microscopic scale, most surfaces are rough. And remember the sandpaper from a couple slides ago? There you don't need a microscope. You can see that it is a very rough surface. The force of friction is due to the interaction between the two surfaces and the amount of force pushing them together, usually the weight of the object. So you can kind of see in here how it's not just perfectly straight, it's a little bit jagged. The shape and amount of contact area between the surfaces does not affect the force of friction, just the types of materials that are moving across each other. The table shows values for both static and kinetic coefficients of friction. Notice that the static friction is greater than kinetic friction. Once an object is in motion, it is easier to keep it in motion. And also, it depends on both materials. Here, the coefficient of rubber on dry concrete is different than the rubber on wet concrete. The lower the coefficient, the less the friction.